heart of myself and my friend Angela to talk about our spiritual path and to share ideas and inspiration. And the working title of this that's come through is 10,000 Hours and Counting. They say that you need to put at least 10,000 hours of effort into learning any skill, into becoming skillful at any kind of occupation or hobby. And thinking about this, I realized that when you're on the spiritual path, the 10,000 hours is certainly and counting. You never get to an end date of learning, of experiencing, of refining. And there's both beauty and excitement in that. And there could also be a certain level of the drudgery on certain days, but it's about the practice and the application of the wisdom that you learn from outside of you and your journey, and also that you know from within. So I'm going to hand it over to Angela for a minute and what 10,000 hours and counting maybe means to her. And then we're going to jump into a discussion heart to heart, and hopefully that inspires you. Hi, Angela.
Hello, my Laura. I love this. And you really made me ponder how many hours have I really devoted to my practice over the years. I mean, if we started thinking about that, I mean, even in those fleeting moments, you're in the ocean and you have to take those into account too, like when you're communing with nature and praying and all of that. So I think it's brilliant. And I think it's an inspiration because I think 10,000 hours can sound daunting, but I also think it could be an inspiration to people because, again, what's coming through today or the past couple of days that's really important is about celebrating wins. And if we can go in there and go, you know what? I have put at least 10,000 hours into, trying to develop my spiritual practice. So it's never going to end. And then be encouraged by that. Almost like they just showed me this picture of badges like a brownie or a Boy Scout or whatever. But yeah, I think it's such a beautiful connotation because it's not going to end in this lifetime or the next. It's not.
It's really beautiful, as you say, celebrate your wins, because when you've been on the journey for a long time, and that requires, either the awakening or the remembrance of you as a soul. So there's a lot of beauty in that, but also depending, when you have that awareness and where you're situated, what's happening in your life, it can have a little bit of an effect on making you feel quite different or outside of the norm. And it will be perhaps something where there's a beauty in the awakening to the soul presence, but there can be a confusion about how does this apply to daily human material life. And I think that's where the 10,000 hours comes, because it is about the application. You can have beautiful, highfalutin spiritual ideals, or even the beautiful guidance that you may receive from high beings. But at the same time, if you don't apply those messages of trust and perseverance or sharing your heart truth, if you don't apply them, then it does become a sort of a hollow, or like as though you've got a beautiful meal that you haven't eaten, you just let the food go to waste, you let the fruit rot in the bowl. So there's something about that. So that is where you need to be on this endless journey. It never ends. Personally, if you're a practitioner, professionally you'll be developing, but you are always developing and understanding what it means for you as a soul having a human experience.
So true. And I love what you just said about the trusting and that we need to act upon what spirit gives us. And a dear friend this morning shared a story about that. She had lost her iPhone a couple of weeks ago. The first thing she got was this message from spirit: go look in this certain place. And her logical mind went, but I never drove there. I never did that. Fast forward 2 weeks later, and it was in that area. She had driven with it on the top of her car, so it went flying off somewhere. And so, but she didn't trust it. And so that was her message even today, was trust what you receive. And not only that, act upon it. And that's exactly what you're saying, this individuation, and to trust that.
Thank you
That
for
may be weird.
yeah, dropping the word individuation. We will talk about that, because being a spiritual being, it's like you are totally your own unique essence. And again, that can contribute to how do I fit in with other people who are doing their path differently. But at the same time, when we are our unique essence, we're able to create this sort of frequency, which people are today talking about the golden age, unity consciousness. It's not about us all becoming the same being with the same thoughts. It's about being so unique and authentically true that we hold a frequency for truth, beauty, love, and light. And we can all revel and enjoy the difference that everybody brings. And that is what creates a unity community. It's not about having to be the same. It's about being different and acknowledging those differences and how all the differences plug all of the tiny little holes in that leaky boat that was currently the way humans exist. So
I
let's talk about
love
the
that.
individual, but I will just go back to what you said about that, the acting on the guidance. And of course, if you're new to listening to guidance and you need to sort of feel out, always just ask them for confirmation. Guidance always comes in a calm and often a joyful way. It doesn't come in a reactionary, quick, hurry, do that now.
Exactly.
That's a little bit more of personality, or past life reflections, but guidance from a true source, an angel or a divine being, or honestly your own higher self, is always has a very calming, grounding, peaceful energy that comes upon you, and it may even have humor attached. So that's a nice way that I know that's what guidance is, that it's not quick, instant. That's, you need to take a breath, take a breath. But at the same time, yeah, if they tell you to do something weird, like that, just at least experiment and do what you thought they told you to do. If it's like, go to that place, pick up that book, because our human part will try and get, involved. And I love that story that she talked herself out of it logically. And where was it? Exactly where guidance said. And it wasn't anything that harmed her or made her life difficult. She had to just overcome her own mind, get out of her own way, and follow the guidance. So it's that thing of co-creation with God, with universe. We do our part and universe will do the rest. So that's where we have to show that we're willing to act. When we ask for assistance, or we understand that we can ask, we do need to show them we're willing to act, because otherwise it doesn't energetically make those connections. And so have the courage to act or to not act as you feel you have been guided.
Oh, I love that. And you're right. I love the humor part, because that's the one thing that I had to learn. And I
Mhm.
think you do, once you begin to trust what usually the angels or your spirit guides are telling you, that these funny things, and you're like, you've got to be kidding me. But I love that about it. But you're right. And you can ask for simple clarifications in that. And spirit wants you to be paying attention. So of course they're going to give you multiple ones, because I know that I've been in that space where I'm like, okay, I think that's a yes, but can you give me one more example of that? And they're probably just flustered. But what spoke to me is about the authenticity that you were talking about, but individual authenticity. And I think what we're beginning to see, what I am noticing, is there are so many people that want to be a part and do their part as light workers, but they're following what somebody else is doing, which is what that person's doing may be beautiful, but it's not them. It's not their unique being that's doing it. And so, well, like you're saying, I wrote that down. Unity community. I love that.
Yeah. Yes. And
And
it's so
that's,
tempting to
yeah.
compare. You compare yourself to others. Some of us do that more than other people, but it is really important to find people that inspire you, obviously teachers, and sometimes if you're a practitioner and you need to learn the modality that you wish to offer, get in there and learn it and get into the details and really just absorb it. But there will always come that time on the path where you have to allow it to be through you, your unique essence of how you offer that modality. Think about all the people who offer Reiki, and they're all
Yeah.
different. And people resonate with them, not just because it's Reiki, but because of what their soul essence brings to the modality that they're offering. So you're right, there's always a part on the journey where you're inspired by a teacher or whatever it is, but you need to then make that personal relationship between you and source. And that is really done through application and experimentation and a willingness to sit and to listen and to believe above and beyond the five senses. And as you say, ask for confirmation. If you think, but that butterfly, did I see that? The truth is, 10 other people wouldn't have seen the butterfly sign that you did, and you see it. And I know what I know. That's what comes to me. It's like, you know what
Yes.
you don't have to explain it, but you can ask them for confirmation. And that's the human. They'll be like lovingly, human? Yes. Here's some more confirmation. But they know how hard and they know how seriously we take being human. And that's why they bring some lightness sometimes, a bit of humor or a joke with you. Or, when maybe you were having some money worries and you're checking your docket after being at the supermarket, the grocery store, and you see that the balance or the change was 444, those kinds of things. And you're like,
Yes.
okay, I'll just breathe because I know that that means the angels are saying that worry is unnecessary. And then you might leave the car park and also see fours on somebody's number plate. That's the humorous thing. They want you to laugh and to say, look, it's all a process. Don't get so heavy about it because we do tend to.
Well, and it makes me think of several things, but it always for me comes back to that perfectionistic nature too. And I think because most of us, we operate from a tremendous well of integrity, more than I think many. That's not fair to judge, but I think integrity is very important to us as healers and on this path. And we're so hard on ourselves when it's not perfect. And I think it's because we're emulating spirit. We want to be perfect. We want to be that higher soul. And I find that can be crippling for a lot of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then there's that sort of feeling of, I guess, hopelessness would come in, or an overwhelm of, well, what I've got to offer, where does that have a place in the world?
Yes.
If it doesn't look like what other things in this field that I'm sort of exploring or I love looks like, then where do I begin? And then it's the challenge for the soul or for the human personality. Do you give up or do you continue the journey, trying to reframe your thinking around it perhaps, or to apply spiritual principles of trusting in the divine timing of your journey? I think that's also another thing as an individual that you will really begin to learn the more that you go on the spiritual path, that there can be almost a narrowing or a tempering of the path, where I feel, and certainly for me, certain opportunities and things are not available because they're not actually what my soul is here to have. And they can be what other angels have termed for me, and you may have read somewhere else, almost glamours, that your
Yes.
personality thinks great. But really, and what I always say to spirit is, help me get out of my own way. I want to manifest what my soul is here to manifest through the human vehicle, this lifetime. So I don't want to be chasing dreams and things that are not actually meant for me, that might actually cause me to feel disappointment or sadness if they don't come to fruition, where it's like the door is shut, and the window is open and the divine is singing and calling to me from the window. And I would be in essence looking at that shut door that I had created. So
I
I'm
agree.
very much about on the path, and both of us have been on our path for a very long time now and always evolving. But I always am going back to that. Of course, I want to manifest, a life of meaning and beauty, but get out of my own way about how that will look, because it's probably not going to look like anything I can imagine now, and not like anything I'm seeing outside of me either. So we spoke about this a bit together earlier about the tension of holding, an intention or a deeply heart dream wish in your life, holding that wish there, but also having enough courage to let it go to the universe and say, however, in the best way this is meant to manifest, or as universe, as source God wills it for my highest good. But you have to have that ability to hold the polarity of both the wanting and the openness of whether or not that's what your soul needs.
So true. And we can all relate to that. And I think we have good days and bad days too. And for me personally, I find that those closest to me can trigger me, and that takes me into, I allow that to take me into a state of despair possibly, or hopelessness, whenever I've had my idea on a dream that I would want. And it's because I was holding on too tight to it as well, because why else would I get so flustered by something that was really a benign statement from somebody who really loves me, but I take that so personally, like that I'm never going to be able to manifest, let's use prosperity for that example. And then I find myself So it's that tension of like, no, I am not going to give in to that and let go of that beautiful goal that I want to reach. But I have got to let whatever these movies are playing in my mind from what I've been spoon fed my entire life, what it should look like. Because as you said, I think, especially now in this golden age, there are things we are creating and coming out of us that we had no idea even existed. And we have to trust that. And that sovereignty, that word keeps coming up too, that truth to yourself, that alignment. And yeah, I'm kind of, as always, going on a diatribe, but
No, that's
yeah,
perfect. And what I was thinking too was it is what you said. It's the possibility of all possibilities, of all potentiality. And as humans, all of humanity, Earth itself, we have come to this point now where it's never been this way before. The energy has never been this much. And I'm talking in a positive sense, so
yes,
much energy from the universe, everything. We're coming to this point where we talked a bit before about another time. Earth has ascended and is continuing to ascend. So we're in this journey. And we do need to be open to bringing in and manifesting totally new ways of being on Earth, the way we relate to each other, to the planet, to our resources. So there are wishers and dreamers now who have got those ideas and they can start to put into implementation. That's beautiful. But for us, I think personally, we're at a point, so many people I've spoken to in my work and in friends and everywhere, family, they're at a point where they feel that what they used to do no longer works for them, but they know there's something else, but they don't really know what it is. And they're in a bit of a stage of scouring themselves a bit, of saying they can't quite go back to that, but they're feeling negative about this almost untethered sort of position they're in. And I mean, I've got that sort of thinking myself too at times, but we need to reframe it and say to ourselves, this being untethered to the way things have been, and we're talking about as human history for whatever millennia, and now we're moving into a whole new way, free of that old heavy karma. How do we allow ourselves that curiosity sort of to say, wow, well, what could be possible now? And not be worried that we can't imagine it, but it's a frequency we can feel. I think I always come back to talking about frequency. So
yes.
prosperity that you're talking about, if it doesn't seem to be showing up, for me in the outer things, but am I overlooking the fact that what if there is some prosperity essence that I'm feeling? Someone gave me a bunch of flowers or something small that I'm with my glasses vision looking out for something else and missing what's right in front of me, because that is it. It's what is the frequency I want to manifest? And you can always feel into that and hold that same frequency. But the way it's going to manifest and look on the outer is how we need to constantly keep adjusting our human vision.
Oh, so, so true. Yes, but 100%, I believe that.
Mm. So if we talk about being an individual, we're saying some people will sort of say, they're wondering how do they allow themselves to be their unique self without becoming sandpaper for other people around them, and maybe, causing themselves some unnecessary hardship where there's a difference between being your truth and sort of feeling, vilified or ostracized for that truth. And this will be stuff from our past lives. But, what do you think, Angela, when you think about if someone was asking you, look, I feel like individuation of my soul is where I'm going. I'm really drawn to this concept, but what the heck is that journey? And I'm also feeling a bit like it's going to mean hardship for me if I take it.
And I think the minute you can let go of that and realizing, first of all, you're not by yourself, there's something very freeing and that'll open up the flow. I think that's hard for people who have truly been isolated, I think, which I think we've all been in that position at some point in our lives. But that what I have found has helped me over the course of when I've journaled, but specifically journaling is also helpful to me. And I feel like that's a big part. And we talked a little bit about this, about the need to get clear. So I find writing down what is it that you want. Now, you don't beat yourself up that it's not perfect. It can change day to day, right? But I think there's something about the power of writing down maybe these fears or what you're hoping to achieve, or like you're saying, what do you want to create, that it can open up that part of you because you kind of get out of your own way. by writing these down. And there's power in that coming out onto the page and you seeing that every day too, because it will make you get clearer. So I think that's a good first step.
That's true, because if you write it down and you read the words, you probably might find that some of them don't resonate. So if you're taking it out of your head and putting it somewhere you can read it on paper or on your laptop, it will help you, I think, maybe to refine, because certain words you might read and say, yeah, no, and then you can refine and refine again. So I think you're right. Getting it out of the head, somewhere you can look at it as well, is really helpful. And then also being able to look back and sort of see the progress. And what you were talking about before, celebrate the wins and the change of your progress. Don't use it as a stick, a measuring stick against yourself, but realize where you've come and the freedom to be able to express yourself on paper or in a way outside of just your words. It's there to be re-looked at again if you save it. I think that is really important too, and continuing to ask for clarity too, because the mind can be so creative and it can argue this way or that way, but it can also be obfuscating to the actual truth. So just starting with something, writing down what you think, and if it doesn't resonate, you might be surprised and you can refine it and write something else.
And you hit the nail. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, go. Yes.
I was going to say you hit the nail on the head with that asking for confirmation too, because I have written things down through the years and they fall flat, but I don't trust that in my body. And so it comes back to asking for, okay, Spirit, am I just feeling that because I'm fearful that I'm never going to get to that? Or is it really that, oh, it's falling flat because it's not meant for me and I'm just almost regurgitating somebody else's idea of what success or what happiness looks like. And so I love the idea of saying, okay, Spirit, if that's not like hitting me with all the warm and fuzzies, then maybe I need to consider erasing that and, and leaving that for another time.
And it's something about really being open. I often find that any goals or things I've write over the years are quite open. And sometimes I think, are they too open? But at the same time, I've noticed that it does tend to lead me, maybe not where I thought, but it is leading me again with the energy of that frequency that I'm wishing to be part of. And there's been other times in my life where it keeps leading me right into the kind of not confrontations, but situations with other people where I think I don't want to be in this space, but it's about helping to heal all of the parts of you that are not your authentic part, that are the defenses or the fears that we've brought with us through other lives. And it's about clearing that dross. So there'll be times on the path where you feel I'm asking for one thing and it just seems like I'm getting the complete opposite to that.
Yes.
But the truth is always that that's where you're at. And in order to get, across that hill, that hummock to where you want to be, you'll need to face those things that are actually stopping you from being that true essence. And that's part of the journey. Like we come here, we need to remember our truth and become more of that truth. We actually start to embody more and more of who we are. And I mean, I have remembered that I was raised to remember I was a returning soul, and that didn't have any hardship, or it didn't sound dogmatic to me. If you want to say to people, it may, but to me, it was a freedom sense. And yet here I am now, all these years later in my 40s, and I have had to work at applying what that means in the human world. And a lot of divine timing has been for me, because energetically, the places I need to be, the things I'm needing to do, I had to be in a holding pattern of space because those essences, those people, those opportunities weren't available then. So there's some courage on the part, if that helps any of you, there can be courage in a waiting, holding pattern frequency. And that obviously for any human is probably one of the worst things you could ever be asked to do. Wait and have patience, trust and have faith.
I just want to scream, but it's the truth. And I know you're probably the same way, that I look back through journals and I start counting the years that I was like writing the same thing. And I'm like, if I had known it would take 7 years to get to this point, would I have given up? Probably. Probably not. I'm too stubborn, but it's still that essence of what you're saying. It's, we have to keep going. We have to, sometimes but it comes back to that place too of what you're saying about holding that vision, but being flexible enough to step back and going back to what you're saying, I do think you have to get clear and specific as possible without being too specific that you is, and so there's a nuance in there that is so hard
It's
to
like
pinpoint.
the world's most difficult to solve Rubik's Cube. It's like one
Yes.
half turn too much and it's over. That's how it feels.
So,
This is the discipline. This is because I feel like that's the human part of us that makes it a hard task. Whereas the soul, and I like to think of us all as creative beings. We all are. We're all souls. We're all creative. We're all artists in a way. If you
yes.
think about someone who is really good at doing whatever they do, they're accessing their intuition. If they're an athlete or a doctor or a teacher, or there's some person doing spiritual art or spiritual healing, they're accessing their intuition and their soul energy, and they're creating something that no one else is doing in quite the same way. It is very, and this is where individuation comes into it, where if we allow more of our truth to sort of find purchase in the world, we really can be quite a creative genius in our own way. So we are the artists of our life, and an artist who actually paints on canvas or sculpts something. Think about that. They've got a blank canvas, they've got a chunk of wood or metal or stone. They have to work with nothing and create something out of that. And that's the human path, really, in a way. I feel there's all that heavy leaden stuff that we bring to transmute, but we use our creativity, so our thinking, our ability to bring joy to small things that make us feel good. I think that if we could look at ourselves more as creative beings, of the artists of our own life, which I'm sure you've heard people say before, then there'll be times where you feel your energy is different, but other times where you feel excited about, maybe, what am I creating? And okay, it's a 7-year process, but
Yes. Oh, yeah, yeah.
finding a
But I
balance.
love it. Oh, pardon me.
No, that's what I'm wondering. So the creativity of every human that has that, we have that ability to think of things that haven't been done before, or do things in a certain way, and whatever lights us up. It's important to feed ourselves with things that light us up, whether that is in our professional life. I mean, hopefully you can follow your passion, but even if it's just something that enables you to feel that life isn't drudgery, and that knowing that you're a spirit, a soul having a human experience, can help you to lift yourself up at times on the path. So remembering, how do you do that for yourself? Is it looking up at the night sky? I think it's about nourishing the spirit to help you to continue when the journey seems, longer than you would like it to be, or perhaps you can't quite tell if the hope is quite yet on the horizon.
That's so true. And what came through as I'm listening to you speak about that, I realize it's the simple things where I think my creativity comes through and I'm not thinking about it. And what specifically comes to mind, and you're very gifted at this, it's when we're in conversation organically with someone, generally writing back and forth, and it's a flow. And we're not trying to blow smoke up somebody's okole, but it's like there's a natural desire to uplift and love and support someone. You can't learn that kind of behavior. And what we have to get our heads wrapped around, that's a form of art, that in itself. So it made me take a look too, that art and how we express ourselves, and as you said, how we maybe even make our living, I feel like it's the things that come so naturally without even thinking about it. Those are our artistic gifts. And sometimes that's why it's so difficult to find, because it we take it for granted.
Mm.
Whenever something just comes and flows from the heart so easily, sometimes we don't even perceive that as something that is artistic, or that could be something that would earn us money, or prosperity or whatever. But I just find that really interesting. And you look at people who are so enormously talented and they can't see that in themselves. And you're just like, oh my goodness, can't you see how fabulous you are? But I think when it comes naturally, or it's who we're born with, we're always searching for these other things, when it's, hello, comes back to that, Dorothy, you've had the power all along.
It does feel like that. That feels true when you say, and I think that we do tend to underestimate the things that come naturally to us. And at the same time, I think it's also good if we're looking at ways of, who are we, to think about things that we did enjoy doing, maybe in your younger years, things that hobbies or places you like to be, because we're talking about soul essence, original self, and children come through with more of a strong connection to source before they can they'll start to potentially forget and just differentiate themselves from that connection to source, which is part of the journey. But so the more that you can think back about your purest essence and are connecting with what you like to do, that's a really good springboard for, how as an adult now on my path, if we're talking about people who are, spiritually aware to whatever degree that is for you, where there's the soul. So how can I bring my essence, the unique part of my soul to life? And it's going to be through enjoyment for a start, because the soul is light and joy and spontaneity and creativity. And then we're in the sort of the heavier metal element of the human body. But that marriage is totally there to work. So we are meant to be doing this. We are meant to succeed is kind of the guidance that I get around this. We have so much support from the, invisible realms, divine guidance. They just want us to, I guess it's apply and apply ourselves to it and find the best way that you would cheerlead yourself. You know what I mean? Like as though you're training for some marathon or important event. Well, you're going to have times where it's getting tougher. You need to encourage yourself. And if you don't encourage yourself, don't necessarily wait around for others around you to be able to do it. Or you'll be the type of person who gets beautiful encouragement from those around you and you just can't take it within. You just say, yeah, no, that's, and you.
I think that's the latter is probably more applicable to us. I think it's difficult to receive accolades sometimes, and
Yeah.
not in a false pride kind of way, but truly that healing that needs to occur about self-worth, which is another topic.
Yeah, and that is a good one. And we will get onto that because it also reminds me of the fact that you are the type of person, and I know I can do this, where you take the one negative comment that might have been made, and whether it was intended or not, and you hash over that, and all the other beautiful things that other people said just become white noise to you.
Just I don't hear it, I don't see it. No, it's
That's an
just like,
imbalance. We don't want to be focusing on the one. You want to focus on, the things that lift you up and make you feel positive, really. So
yeah.
that would be sort of the beginning of our discussion on individuation. I also really want to talk about unplugging from mass consciousness, but I feel that's a whole other topic. But that's definitely a part of the journey of soul individuation, and also worthiness to, receive and to be who you are. But I think, gosh, we've covered so much and we tune in with the intention. We really just tuned in energetically because Angela is in Hawaii and I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and we make these beautiful heart connections. We just totally vibe with each other, and we just created this space of just energy of safety and inspiration, and just hoping that this can touch you. And if you're anywhere on your journey of 10,000 hours and counting of practice, that you may feel, some support on the ethers to know that you are not alone. Many people are walking this path before you, with you, they'll be walking it after you. And we do just need to keep finding ways to participate in our journey and join in with others that make us feel, a simple joy at being here on earth, because it's a big gift. It's something that we asked to do and something that lots of souls wish to experience. So we need to be able to find the joy in the journey.
Here, here. Beautifully said.
Well,
I
that's
love
us
my
for now.
Sundays.
Oh, I love these connections. And Angela, we'll see how we go with this again, but we're just going to, for now, just wish you all the very best and see what happens next time, the magic in the moment. So bye for now.
Bye for now.